My quality of life went from 0 to 1,000. It's just the most amazing thing. And I'm upset at the entire industry of doctors and pharmaceuticals and food. I feel like I was robbed of 30 years of my life because this was kept from me. And no one told me that this was this easy and you could cure yourself. They said it would never be cured and I'd be on drugs for the rest of my life. And that's what they kept telling me. I just wish I had found this 30 years ago. I accomplished a lot in the last 30 years that I wanted to, but I did it with such struggle. I could have done 1,000 times more.
Welcome to the Plant-Free MD podcast with Dr. Anthony Chaffee, where we discuss diet and nutrition and how this affects health and chronic disease, and show you how you can use this to optimize your health and happiness, both mentally and physically. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Plant-Free MD podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Chaffee, and today I have a very special guest, Mr. Stephen Lashbrook, who is coming to tell us his story with the carnivore diet. Stephen, thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with you.
Yeah. So for people who haven't come across you before, can you please tell us a bit about you?
So basically, my journey began with a lot of trauma as a child. And I don't know if that sort of had an effect on my later health conditions or not. I believe it did, as far as a lot of the mental. Around 18, 19 years old, I was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, had a few little spots, and they gave me some steroid creams. The steroid creams didn't really help me. They were nasty, and you had to use them like 3-4 times a day. From that, it got worse and worse. And for the next 30 years, it continued to take over my entire body. And so, about October of 2022, I went to my last doctor's appointment. I was pretty much 90% covered in psoriasis at that point. I could barely move. I couldn't sleep, couldn't barely go to work. Couldn't function normal as a human being in society anymore. And the doctor said, well, I'll give you these 2 injections since we tried all, steroid creams. We've tried the UVB light therapy, whatever. And, I asked him about the side effects and they were really nasty. And he also said that, this was a lifelong commitment. Once you're on these I guess autoimmune suppressant drugs, you're on them for a lifetime. And so I basically told him that, with the side effects that would end up killing me. I was already suicidal. I was already depressed. And those were some of the major side effects with that stuff. So I went home to end my own life, and I was over it and done. And I came across Mikahlia Peterson's story while going through my phone to figure out a way to say goodbye to the world. And I saw what it did for her. And I said, well, I'm not ready to go. I don't want to die. I don't want to stop, trying. So I gave that a whirl and dove slowly into lion and carnivore.
Well, I'm really glad that you were able to find that. It's sort of a bit serendipitous that you did find her, and I'm glad you did. Sometimes we sort of get the message we need right at the right time, but a lot of other people probably haven't yet, and so hopefully they do. But I'm really glad that happened and you didn't take your life. So that's obviously a very, very profound burden of disease. You're getting almost completely covered with psoriasis, and then the psoriatic arthritis part of that is obviously, I'm sure, extremely painful, joint swelling and issues with that. Um, what were some of the changes you saw? I mean, what was your transition like, and what sort of benefits did you see when you did transition?
So I started off with fasting and eliminating um, like the junk food aspect of it. And at that point, I was basically eating raw vegetables and junk food at night to ease the depression. And yeah, that was my crutch.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I slowly started with fasting and cutting that stuff out, and then moved into the basically animal based type of eating. And yeah, things started changing. My my skin started appearing better. The patches weren't as inflamed and as red, and then the itch started going away slowly. And then they would decrease in size, and the joint pain really took longer than everything else. The depression went away really fast. The suicidal thoughts basically stopped, and they've been around my whole life.
Mm.
At random times throughout the day, you would just get these messages of like, "All right, you forget it, just end it now." Like weird, awful thoughts throughout my life constantly, and numerous times I almost acted on them. And yeah, so that stuff completely went away. And that was like mind blowing to me because, I thought I was stuck like this. And as far as everything else, I thought I was stuck with all these issues. Sleep. I got maybe 2 hours of sleep at night if I was lucky. So yeah, I sleep 8 hours a night now. My skin is completely clear. It's just mind blowing. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's amazing. And so was it sort of how long did it take to clear up your skin? And was it did it start clearing up sort of right away when you're doing the fasting and changing to animal based, or you mentioned that you did sort of the full lion diet like Mikahlia was just the red meat and water. Um, was that was there a reason for that? You just feel better, or did that help you get rid of the rest of the rashes and symptoms and things like that?
right. So I was at the point last November where I'd gotten down to basically lying,
Hmm.
and things were getting really good. I'd gone through a point before that where things got worse for a minute, and then I pretty much figured it was all the toxin dumping and oxalate dumping and all the other crap that I was getting over. Um, but yeah, then it started getting really better, and then the holidays came around last November, and I cheated on Thanksgiving. I was alone. I was depressed, and so I was like, I'll have a piece of pie,
Mm.
and that led to the entire rest of the year of going back to eating crap and feeding my depression through the holidays and being alone and going through a breakup, and just all these things were happening, and I wasn't handling it well.
Mm.
And so January 1st, I said, screw it. And I went strict lion.
Mm.
So for the last 9 months, I've just been going that direction. And yeah, so after that, I cleared fast. Like
Mm.
after going lion, and I realized that once I took out dairy, dairy definitely, because when I started doing lion before, I would have dairy and I wasn't improving as much. I was basically just carnivore and dairy.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, the dairy for me, I don't know why some people just it inflames them so bad. And I tried the raw, I
Mm.
tried everything, but I just can't do it. It definitely affects me.
Yeah, I see that a lot as well, especially with autoimmunity. Some people do fine with dairy, and I don't have a problem with dairy, but I feel best without it, certainly. But I don't feel bad with it. It's just
Right.
I I don't feel as great as if I'm just eating steaks, just eating beef. But
Mhm.
people with autoimmune issues, I see that really being a problem for most people with autoimmunity. I don't really know of anybody that I've treated anyway with autoimmune issues that could really tolerate that. I even to the extent that I've had patients with Hashimoto's, which is very easy to test their antibodies in Hashimoto's, and and when they're sort of adding in dairy and doing these sorts of things, you actually start seeing their antibodies start to creep up, and when we
Mhm.
cut them out, then it just comes down again. So there is some sort of immune reaction and inflammatory reaction. The casein in particular seems to be very inflammatory. The A1 is much more inflammatory than the A2, but the A2 is actually still inflammatory. It's just much less so than the A1. And so, especially if you're dealing with an inflammatory disease like autoimmunity, just seems that people need to avoid it. Um, which is a shame because cheese is nice, but
I
it's not
love
the end of
it.
the world. Yeah.
But so why do you think that someone like me maybe is predisposed to not being able to have dairy? Is it because I do have an actual autoimmune disease,
Mm.
or was my gut just so screwed up? I'm trying to figure that part out.
Um, so the thing is that I think there's the genetic. Well, I think it's both. So there's the genetic predisposition and environmental triggers, and there's also leaky gut. So if you don't have leaky gut, then a lot of these things aren't going to get into your system. But if you do have leaky gut, and that comes from generally lectins and plant toxins like wheat germ agglutinin, and then these can get into your system. Then these other toxins get into your system, and bacteria can get into your system, and then your body makes antibodies towards them because that's what your body's supposed to do. And then there's certain people that have a bit of a cross reactivity or um, something going on that their body's making these antibodies, and those antibodies are now attacking their body as well. And that doesn't happen to everybody, but it's way more common than we realize. It's becoming more and more common and prevalent as well. So I think it's probably going to be most people are probably going to be pretty susceptible to this stuff. But because you're making these antibodies towards something that's harmful, um, and getting cross reaction, you just have to avoid anything that's going to trigger that response. So it seems that milk and dairy does this, eggs as well. For some reason, it could be something to do with what the cow's eating, or it could just be that this can cause inflammation and damage and cause leaky gut, which allows other things like bacteria even in, and you can get that sort of autoimmune sort of reaction as well. It's hard to say because we don't, it's a lot of guesswork with autoimmune issues. We don't know exactly why these
Mhm.
things go, but it has to do with something with your food because you eat certain things and the antibodies go up. You stop eating those things and the
Right.
antibodies go away. And so the other thing is too is that when you stop eating a lot of this stuff, your leaky gut can heal. And then a lot of people with autoimmunity, and I have a friend of mine, Phil Escott, who had psoriatic arthritis and came to a carnivore diet to heal that. And after about 6, 8 months, he found that he could start tolerating a bit of dairy and a bit of eggs and some chicken or pork. Whereas for those first 6 months, it was he could not tolerate anything outside of beef and lamb.
Mhm.
And so, presumably, when his leaky gut started healing and had that bit of barrier protection, he could tolerate a bit more of these sorts of things. Um, but then Mikahlia Peterson, who you mentioned, even what is she now? Probably 6 going on 7 years now.
Mhm.
Um, she says that even years into it, pork will give her a rheumatoid arthritis flare up, and fruit will too. So for her, she it just gets right into her system right away. So it's something's getting through even without leaky gut because presumably that would have healed by now. So it's hard to say, but there's something in there that's causing inflammation, that's causing this autoimmune reaction. And it seems to be, dairy's triggering in that. And we're not really designed to drink cow's milk in general. I mean, we're designed to drink human milk, which is very similar, but not the same. And generally not as adults. That's a very recent genetic adaptation to be able to tolerate lactose as an adult. And so there's these sort of more recent adaptations. And starch, that's when people think like, oh, we've been eating root vegetables and starchy vegetables for forever. No, we haven't. That's actually a very recent genetic adaptation. And that comes from after, the megafauna died out or were much less plentiful, and we had to start looking at other sorts of other ways of eating. We started moving to those sorts of things, and dairy was one of those things. So we had these adaptations, but it's not strictly optimal like mammoth is. You know what I mean? But yeah, so it's
Love that mammoth.
yeah, well, that's what we grew up on. We have evidence
right.
we've been eating mammoth for
Absolutely.
millions of years, and so yeah, that's what we should be eating, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey everyone, really happy to announce a new sponsor for the show and for everybody down in Australia, Stockman Steaks, who are delivering high quality grass-fed and finished pasture-raised beef and other meats, flash frozen and vacuum sealed to your door, something that I've been enjoying a lot of myself recently as well. They also have a great range of specialty items such as high-fat keto mince and carnivore beef and organs mince with liver, kidneys, and beef heart as well. So use code Chaffee today for a free order of beef mince or another specialty gift along with your order at stockmansteaks.com.au, and I'll see you over there. Thanks, guys. So at this point, now it's been about 8 months and you've just been just strict lying. And how are your symptoms now? What are you experiencing?
I tell you, day by day, it literally blows my mind how much better I get. I didn't think the pain would ever go away. Honestly, I've been living in so much pain for so many years. And yeah, I like just trying to fall asleep at night. I would have to like kick my legs and I couldn't lie still. Just everything would throb. I'd spasm. It was a real hell. It was literally hell. So yeah, sleeping is amazing. It's the best thing ever. And my skin, to be able to, go out in public and not have to, worry about people pointing and staring and making awful comments and really rude comments, is amazing. And to not feel confined to that just tight, burning, itchy, just like, I don't know, you feel like you're in a straight jacket of crusty painfulness, and I was bleeding all the time. The steroid creams really thinned my skin out a lot. And so, I'd rub up against cardboard and I'd just start bleeding. I'd itch a little spot, I'd just start bleeding. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, sheets covered in blood because I was itching in the middle of my sleep. Like, all of that's gone. And so my quality of life went from 0 to 1,000, and it's just the most amazing thing. And I'm upset at the entire industry of doctors and pharmaceuticals and food. And I feel like I was robbed of 30 years of my life because this was kept from me. And no one told me that this was this easy and you could cure yourself. They said it would never be cured and I'd be on drugs for the rest of my life. And that's what they kept telling me.
Yeah. And that's what we're taught. But that's not what people used to be taught. I mean, there were books on this. There have been studies on this throughout the 20th century and even in the 19th century. In the 1800s, we were treating autoimmune issues with a pure red meat and water diet. And there were doctors still writing books and writing papers and still arguing and and showing the evidence for this even into the 1970s. And there are other studies that have shown for other autoimmune diseases like Crohn's disease, that you just put people on elemental diet, which is just the macros and micros that you need and nothing else. They're generally ketogenic, little shakes sort of things. And that's a better treatment for an acute flare-up of Crohn's than prednisone, than the steroids,
Mhm.
right? And so just not eating certain things is a better treatment than steroids. And cutting out carbs and fiber could keep people in remission for Crohn's for up to 51 months, so over 4 years. And
Wow.
contrast that with a control group that didn't eliminate carbs and fiber, and they stayed in remission on average 0 months. These are recent studies that have been
Mhm.
done in humans, and yet no one knows about them. They are not taught in medical school. They are not taught in residency
Right.
programs because there's no money behind it, right?
Yeah.
And that's not disparaging anything. It's just pointing something out, that when you have a drug company spending $1 billion bringing a drug to market, a lot of that money is going to be on sales reps and marketing and getting that information to the doctor, so the doctor has it available to them. They're going to be funding medical schools and medical programs and the AMA and the diabetes associations and all these other conferences, so that their information for their product gets out there. Fine. That's how that information gets out there. Unfortunately, there's no product line behind
Right.
these dietary interventions. And so, there's no
Profit.
industry that has the budget, the marketing budget to fund that sort of thing. So unfortunately, we just have to learn it ourselves. And doctors unfortunately think that if it wasn't taught to them in residency, it wasn't worth knowing and it doesn't exist. But they've never actually looked for it. And when I talk to doctors, they're like, "Well, there's no evidence for that." I'm like, "Have you looked?" And I just pull up 5 studies, randomized controlled trials in humans, showing the different benefits of ketogenic diets on autoimmunity, on diabetes, on Alzheimer's, on autism, all these other sorts of things. And not everything's an RCT, but there are a lot of experimental studies, and there's a lot of RCTs. And they're blown away, because they're
Mhm.
like, why have I never heard of this? What's going on? Well, that's why. It's this incentive model. So it is a shame. I mean, I certainly wasn't taught any of this stuff. I mean, this is all, the majority of medicine that I practice now is self-taught. Some of the
Mhm.
things that I've had to
Wow.
figure out, but in the framework of everything else I've learned, I mean, that's certainly very important. If I didn't have that framework and understanding of the rest of these systems, I wouldn't have been able to make the conclusions that I have,
Mhm.
or to make the sort of have the ideas that I've had. And so I think you do need all of that. But either way, my education was not complete.
Right.
And we can't think that our education for medical school or residency is ever going to be complete. As I believe it was William Osler, famous medical teacher, said to a graduating class at Harvard, um, half of what you've learned here is going to turn out to be wrong, but no one's going to be able to tell you which half, because no one knows.
Right.
So, you're going to have to keep going, and you're going to have to keep rediscovering and learning and researching yourself to figure out which half is wrong, and to push the boundaries of medical understanding and knowledge as you go throughout your careers. And that's something that we've forgotten. We've just become automatons. We've become cogs in a machine, that we just go into a hospital, an HMO system, or a public, government system, and you're here to do a job. You're here to just churn out patients, and you have 10 minutes per patient. Just churn it out, churn it out, churn it out, churn it out. That's what you're here for. You're a money generating machine, and you're
Mhm.
getting paid an hourly rate, and the hospital's making billions of dollars off of your labor. And you've just got to churn this stuff out. It's not about patient care. It's not about actually solving problems and curing diseases. It's about churning out a product, which is seeing patients, doing procedures, and things like that. So we just have, unfortunately, found ourselves in a very different time and a different
Yeah.
modality. So, we just need to change that. That's why I work
Yeah.
in private practice. I don't take Medicare money, and I don't or insurance money. It's like, and so I can actually spend as much time as I want to with my patients because, they're paying for it. And
Right.
I'm able to sit down and talk to them for half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour and a half sometimes, and get what we need to do accomplished. And
Mhm.
so that's I like that better. And so it's not just churning out office visits. And the good thing about that is the things that I'm doing are actually getting people better. And so I have a high turnover because I see people intensively for several weeks and going on a couple months, and then things start getting better and better and better, and I start seeing improvements. And it's just like, hey, I'm giving you the skills to just go be a happy, healthy adult. And then that's it. But then what we're packed out months in advance with new patients because they're seeing all their friends and family getting better, and and so they want to come in and figure it out as well. It's great. But
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, as well-meaning as your doctors I'm sure were, they just didn't know about it, which is why I'm really glad that you're telling your story so that other doctors who do treat this can maybe wake up and say, hey, maybe I should try this for my patient.
Yeah, a lot of the doctors, it seems, that I went to in the past few years would just look at their iPad and then say, "Here's a prescription," and that was it. You're done. And it's
Mm.
like, wait a second, we didn't discuss anything. You, it's like, wow. So
Mm.
yeah, no, the revolving door thing, and yeah, not treating, and every book I read about curing psoriasis, the psoriasis cure, this, that, they all said don't eat red meat.
Yeah.
All of them,
Mm.
every one of them. Don't eat red meat. Eat, maybe turkey or chicken or something, but and fish. But yeah, ridiculous. I just wish I had found this 30 years ago. Man, I accomplished a lot in the last 30 years that I wanted to, but I did it with such struggle, and I feel like, I could have done 1,000 times more
Mm.
if I didn't have to deal with all that, um, to get to where I am now. So that part of it really, bugs me, but
Yeah.
now moving forward. So
Yeah. Well, but the good news is that you don't have another 30 years of misery to look forward to as well. Now you can get going, and and if you think about it, you've accomplished all that you have through serious health adversity. Now that you don't have those, you've dropped the anchor off your back, but you're so used to dealing with that those hard times, and now it's a good times. It's just now life has just gone on easy mode now, so that's good too.
see, like, yeah, no, it's
Mm.
changed so much. Everything, just my whole outlook on the world.
Mhm.
Um, and how I deal with my daily routine and my daily life now is completely different, and it's amazing, and I'm so grateful. And I can't wait to meet Michaela and thank her in person at some point.
Mm.
So, she had reached out to me, so we're gonna
Oh
make
yeah.
that happen. Yeah.
Oh nice. Yeah. Was that recently or
Yeah, she reached out to me about a month and a half ago and said she wanted to set up like some type of podcast or something, and with people that
yeah.
are continuing online and having great success. And I said, look, I'm your biggest fan.
Mhm.
I have to thank you. You saved my life. Like, you're
Yeah.
my an angel. So like it or not, I'll thank you one way or another. So
Yeah.
yeah, that would be really cool. So
Yeah. Well, that's great that you'll get a chance to meet her and thank her in person. It is really nice. The work that she's doing, the work that her dad is doing, just trying to help people and trying to get
yeah,
this information out there on the carnivore diet as well, which is pretty cool that Jordan Peterson does carnivore. My other great intellectual hero is Thomas Sowell, and if I can get any inroads to speaking with him and try to get him on a carnivore diet to give him another 30 years of happiness and health, I would absolutely love to. So anyone listening, I always have an open open request that anybody who has an inroad at Thomas Sowell can put me in touch with them. I would really appreciate it. Please do reach out, anthonychaffee@gmail.com, if you have an inroad to get me talking to Thomas Sowell, because he's just amazing. And but then, Mikahlia and her father Jordan doing amazing stuff. And I think that that they've done a lot of help, a lot of good for people. Just just pushing back on all the sort of the social craziness that has been going on, and just saying, hold on a second, that's not actually going in a very healthy direction. And here's why. Now you can disagree with it if you want to, but they voiced some very legitimate concerns. And then the diet thing, which is just a total aside. It's just something they happen to come across, and they're just like, yeah, this really helped me. And it's just that alone is going to help a lot of people. And then getting the combination of, hey, why don't you have some personal responsibility, put some, think about your life and have some self-determination and direction in your life, and clean up your diet. And I don't, those very simple tenets are going to really change a lot of people's lives, I think, and already have.
I mean, as far as psoriasis goes, and there's 8 million people in the US that have some sort of
Mm,
psoriasis. Um, and all they're getting is the wrong information.
yeah.
And so my mission now in life is to get them the correct information. And I don't want to see people suffer the way I did. It's unfair, and it doesn't have to be that way. Like, and so yeah, I really just, I'm not going to shut up until I tell as many people as I can. And yeah.
Yeah, good. So so at this point, so obviously the autoimmune issues and the depression, have you noticed any other changes in your health as well?
So I lost 70 pounds of fat,
Wow.
which I didn't
Yeah.
realize. I didn't even realize I was at like 200 pounds. I'm 6 foot tall.
Hmm.
Um, and I wore like black extra large t-shirts, and you couldn't really tell. I could tell. I knew but I thought, I'm eating mostly vegetables, and then a pint of
Hmm.
Ben here, and then whatever. I exercised. I bodyboard. I play music in a band. So I thought I was, active enough, but no. And then all this weight just started going and going and going. I got down to 130 pounds. I'm like, wait, I
Oh,
think
wow.
I need to start eating more meat. I don't think
Hmm.
I'm enough meat.
Yeah.
So I started adding more. I added more meat to my diet, and added more fat to my diet, and added more workout.
Mm.
And so now I'm sitting at like 140 something,
Yeah, nice.
and I feel amazing. I'll be 49 in like a week and a half. And yeah, I haven't felt this good since I was 17, 18 in college.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice. Yeah. Yeah, that's really
incredible.
good.
It's a miracle. It's
Yeah.
really, it's a
Yeah.
miracle.
How long did it take you to lose those 70 pounds?
The 70 pounds went off. I mean, wow, it went quick.
Hmm.
I'd say within 8 months,
Yeah, wow.
between the fasting and quitting, all the vegetables, the seed oils, the carbs, bread,
Mhm.
pasta, all of it. Yeah, it was amazing to me. I was like, wow, it's like my 17-year-old body. This is
Mhm.
insane. So yeah, now workouts mean more to me because I can see things happening. When I work out, I can see the difference. But before, I was bloated, I was inflamed, and I was carrying a lot of fat.
Mhm.
And I didn't
Yeah.
even like. I
Yeah.
know I need to lose 70 pounds of fat.
That's significant.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. People get discouraged when they go to the gym and they're not seeing too much of a difference. They're not seeing muscle go on or fat come off. It's a slow grind and all that sort of stuff. And they can get very discouraged. They go hard. It's like the New Year's resolution. Everybody is gonna be a body, do a fitness competition starting January, and then by February it
Right.
was like, no, screw that, it doesn't work. And so yeah, so you're getting much better results like that,
Yeah.
and you're going to the gym, and you got the layers off, and now you can see the muscles started to develop. Yeah, that's definitely going to be more encouraging. That makes sense.
Absolutely. And it makes you feel amazing to look in the mirror at this
Mhm.
point. I used to hate the mirror. I
Mm,
despised it. I wouldn't go near the mirror.
mm,
Um, you know, it's amazing that I have the pictures I do of myself at some of my worst points, because it was hard, really hard to take those.
yeah.
But I knew I was going to go through this journey, and if it worked, I wanted the world to see that it worked.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
why I took
sorry, go on. What was that?
that's why I took some of those pictures I took of myself,
Yeah.
before I healed.
Well, it's really important, isn't it? And it's important to show those before and afters. I mean, we're even putting together a case series actually on psoriasis, and one of the more powerful parts of that is the before and after pictures, because it's something, when you talk about people's symptoms and blood numbers and colonoscopies and biopsy, all that sort of stuff, it sort of gets lost in the wind. But if you see a picture, it's just like, here's before, here's after. Wow, that's a big
My
difference.
Yeah, my images have been banned on X.
Oh, really?
Um, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and there were images that were grouped up in a post of before and after,
Mm,
thanking Michaela,
mm,
thanking, I believe, you, thanking Sean Baker, a whole bunch of people, and banned.
yeah.
This
Wow.
post is, there's whatever, some kind of content that we can't show, and
Hmm,
yet they show babies being blown apart in the wars and
Jesus.
all this other crap, and it's like, really, I can't show like my before and after. you know
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, that's a little discouraging at times. The people that attack you and tell you this is, that you're full of crap and this is not
Mm,
real, and I'm like, look, I'll come to your house.
mm.
I'll show up and knock on your door. You can look at me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm living, walking proof that this works. And I've been through all the other crap, and it doesn't work. So I don't know what else to tell people.
Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor at Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. For those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys. Well, that's it. You just just keep getting the story out, and more stories, and the publications. You have that, published. It's not just anecdotal anymore. It's like, no, that's in the published literature. This is an observed phenomenon.
Somebody publish me, man. I'm a lab rat. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like this has to be taught to every dermatologist and rheumatologist ASAP. Like, this
Yeah.
is the most important thing. And the diet here in America is so awful, and you
Mm,
wonder why 8 million people have psoriasis. Well, I mean, come on, look at what they're eating. It's
yeah.
just, come on, the correlation is just so insane. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's
yeah, I got a
amazing.
lot of work to do.
Well, it's even sort of you see it more of a cause and effect sort of relationship as well. Not that that's been shown in experimental studies, which I think would be great if we did. But you stop eating certain things and your rash goes away, your psoriasis goes away, your symptoms go away, and you start eating that stuff again and it comes right back. And then you stop and it goes away, and you come and it comes back and it goes away. I mean, it's almost as if there's a relationship there. And
Most.
so, yeah, almost. And so, and when more and more people are doing this and they're having the exact same cause and effect relationship with food, people just need to start paying attention. It's our medical understanding advances all the time. That's why guidelines change every 5 years. That's why textbooks get updated. That's why we have research departments, because they're like, hey, we don't know everything yet.
Yeah.
Right. And so to then to understand that and say, yes, we need to research, we need to find this out, and then just deny the lived experience of hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people around the world is, well, it's just asinine is what it is. It's just, I mean, it's stupid on its face, but it's just bloody insane. I mean, like, what do you mean you're just going to ignore that? Why
It's
would you
evil.
ignore that?
It's evil, and you know they. Why would you want to push something as simple as changing a diet when you can't make any money off of that?
Mhm.
So, get it. I really get it, which is why you
Yeah.
know uh, I won't shut up. So,
Yeah. Well, and you shouldn't,
yeah,
because yeah, we don't have a multi-billion-dollar marketing department behind this. And
right.
so we need to have the personal testimonials, and
Bad for YouTube and
yeah, that's a
podcasts
yeah,
and the internet. Like, man,
thank
yeah,
goodness. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, because this used to be the treatment for autoimmune diseases. Even in the
right,
1800s,
right.
this is how you treated autoimmune issues. Well, with Dr. Salisbury figured this out, and they were using this all throughout the 20th century of just meat and water, beef and water diets, lamb being a distant second best, and and then we just papered over it and forgot about it.
Yeah,
Even though
where
that
did
was,
that turn go, and how did that happen, and why wasn't I able to find that book when I was looking for books,
yeah,
for the
yeah.
last 30 years?
Just the vilification of meat. They just said meat's evil, it's sinful, it causes lust, and now it causes heart disease, now it causes cancer, now it causes diabetes. The people that were saying in the 1800s that meat is sinful and causes lust are the ones paying for the studies now that say that it causes heart disease and cancer and diabetes.
Hmm.
It's the same people, it's the same motivations, and now you have a profit motivation as well, with processed food companies, which are all plant-based. And so, you have this profit incentive as well as an ideological incentive. And when they started really sort of getting traction was in the late 70s and early 80s. And that's when everything changed. And we just
Yeah.
threw out all, centuries and millennia of learned experience and medical knowledge, and just replaced it overnight. It was, oh, well, that's all old stuff. We're so smart now. Maybe, but
Are we?
be careful. You never tear down a fence until you know why it was put up in the first place. And so don't just throw away hundreds of years of medical knowledge and experience on a whim.
Right.
You need to make damn sure that that you're right about it. And so, and they didn't. There's no experimental data, no experimental evidence to show this. It was, and we know now that it was just propaganda and marketing and things like that. So, unfortunately, we've been suffering for
Mhm.
for a while now, but thankfully, people like yourself have rediscovered this, and the knowledge of the ancients, and come
Right.
back and gotten better, which is great.
Yeah, no, it's I couldn't ask, I prayed for this for 30 years, and
Hmm.
I couldn't ask for anything better at this point in my life. I really
Yeah,
couldn't.
that's
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah.
then do you speak out about this? Do you have your own channel? Are you talking about this? Do you help others going through this as well?
So I started a new Instagram after my first podcast with Carrie from Homestead Hal,
Mhm.
who's awesome. He's so
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, super cool guy. So yeah, after that, I started a new Instagram called Carnivore Healing Ranch because my new vision is to have a place where people can come and I can help them through the process if they can't do it on their own and they're able to come to a retreat and get away for a month or 2 months, maybe 2 weeks, a week, whatever it takes. So yeah, I that page grew in the last few months to, I don't know, 3,500 followers, and a lot of those followers are extremely active with me and talk to me on the daily basis. So I've some days spent 3 hours a day answering people's questions. And so now I'm trying to figure out how to get all this work together so that I can help everybody that wants my help. And I can also have a place to help people. And so once I have that, I want to start a YouTube channel or a podcast. There's just so much that I think I can do at this point. And I believe, YouTube and podcasts, Instagram. I won't use TikTok because I'm old and I don't know anything about it. But yeah, so I'm trying to get advice from anybody who's done GoFundMe's and money raising, or has done retreats. I have a friend who knows somebody who has a bunch of like rehab retreats, and so I'm going to try and talk to him and see how he did it, what kind of laws I have to deal with and rules, and so there's a lot, but I should have a GoFundMe out within a couple weeks here, that I feel is ready to start this train rolling.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And well, I think that's great that you're getting yourself out there. The more voices, the better. Sometimes you can say things until you're blue in the face, and it just doesn't really, connect with people. And then somebody else says it in their own way with their own take on it, and all of a sudden it makes sense, even though it's largely the same material. It's just like, oh, that I get it now. I see what they're saying, and that makes sense to me. And then they try it, and then that's all it is. You just try it and see, and when people do, they know it works because it
Well, yeah, and there's so
works.
many things that this, that carnivore helps. And, so there's so many different people with so many different experiences of all these different things it's, changed and helped. So, all those people's voices need to be heard. And that's why I'd, like to definitely start some sort of podcast. And I just want to get out there. I mean, if I could talk to a Wembley Stadium full of people, I would,
Mhm.
like I just want to get out there and help as many people. Like I said, suffering is not something that you want to see anyone go through, and going through it like I did for 30 years. I just want to stop that from happening to anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a YouTube channel is a great idea, and you just start making videos. And you just talk about your story and what you were going through. You show before and after pictures, and you say, well, this is what worked for me. This is what's working for others as well. Seems to be some sort of relationship with the food. Our bodies are reacting to it and making antibodies that are now hitting our body as well. And you stop eating this stuff, it goes away. If I eat this stuff again, it comes back. It's very clear. And so for me, I'm not eating anything else, and these are my results. And give it a try and see how you go. Something like that, something that's just simple as that is actually very powerful, especially when people don't have anywhere to go, like where you were.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
it was a miracle that I
yeah,
came across her. I think it was her TED Talk or something,
right.
and it was an absolute miracle because I had no idea who she was. I knew who her father was, but I had no idea who she was. And I just sat there and my jaw dropped. And I was like, wait a second. No one's ever said this. They've always told me the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
How can this be? Wait, is this really real? And the more I just kept looking and further and went down the whole rabbit hole that day. And I said, God, this is a sign. This is another chance. Yeah, I'm just so grateful. So grateful. So yeah, if I can have that effect on one other person, like this is worth it. All of it's worth it.
Yeah, right. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for that. I think it is going to be very helpful for people. And I think the more people that come out and tell their story, and especially with such a massive recovery like you've had, is going to turn heads, and it's going to give people hope. I mean, you know exactly how hopeless you can get in this situation. And hopefully somebody else sees this in time and is inspired by your story and ends up changing their life as well. So thank you very much for sharing your story, and please do tell us where can people find you and follow you more of your work and get in touch with you.
So right now, focusing most of my energy as far as social world at Carnivore underscore healing underscore ranch on Instagram. So yeah, Carnivore Healing Ranch on Instagram is my main focus, and all updates, as far as what I'm doing, will be on there. If you want to see some of my photography, Instagram best concert photos. I'm a concert photographer, and yeah, check that out. And you will definitely be hearing more from me. I hope, and let's change the world. And I can't even thank you enough. You're a huge inspiration, like on a daily basis for me. So I really, really respect you and appreciate you for everything you're doing. And can't thank you enough for letting me share my story.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And no, the pleasure's all mine. It was absolutely wonderful to have you on. I really appreciate you taking the time out and sharing your story. It's very personal stuff, and it's not always easy to talk about. And so I appreciate you coming
It's the
on.
first time I didn't cry.
Oh yeah,
I'm riled up a few times, but I didn't actually cry. So I'm getting
yeah,
better at this.
yeah. You're doing great.
So yeah, I hope to shake your hand one day in person. I'm
Absolutely.
sure we'll get at some carnivore event somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking forward to it. Well,
Looking
great. Well,
forward.
thank you, Stephen, so much. I'll put those links down in the description. So everyone, please do go down there and give Stephen a follow and find more of his work. And thank you all very much, everyone, for watching this. If you or someone you know suffers from psoriasis or psoriatic arthritis or any other autoimmune issue, do think about giving the Lion Diet a try. Really, just red meat and water, beef, lamb, and water gives the best results. And people all over the world are finding with autoimmunity, especially, that this is extremely beneficial. So if you suffer from this or someone you know suffers from this, please do give it a try. Send this to people who may need to hear this and may benefit from this as well, because this is the only way we can get this message out there is by word of mouth, and you all sharing this with your family and friends, because again, we don't have a $2 billion marketing budget like Pepsi does. And so we can't get this information out there any other way. It has to come from word of mouth. So give it a try and send it to someone else. And thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you very much for taking the time out to listen to what I had to say. If you like it, then please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and podcast. And if you're on YouTube, then please hit that little bell and subscribe, and that'll let you know anytime I have a new video out, which should be every week, if not more. And if you could share this with your friends, that would help me get the word out and let me know that you like what I'm doing. Thanks again, guys.